Welcome to Delta Days in the Bronx. Today we will be discussing student loan debt. And our first speaker is from the New York City Consumer and Worker Protection Agency. And we have Ayad Al Bagali, and he is a community associate in the unit of community affairs. So thank you for joining us, Ayad, and we look forward to what you are going to say today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Janelle. This is Ayad Gabieli, and on behalf of the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, I would like to thank you guys for the work you do in the Bronx, my borough, and also for inviting me here to speak today on a very important topic. Indeed, it's one of the, I think for young people, especially, and for recent graduates, it's very important for them to learn more about what the agency offers and how our Office of Financial Empowerment centers could assist in terms of student loans and ways to navigate that process. So I am joined here by my colleague, Tristan, who will be speaking into detail, and I'll take over the Q&A portion from Shahaya Community Development Corporation. They are one of our great partners who we have been working with and offer direct services to New Yorkers. So the question is now, who is familiar with the Department of Consumer Affairs? Well, formerly known as the Department of Consumer Affairs, but now we're the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. We protect and enhance the daily economic lives of New Yorkers, to create thriving communities. And we do this through three primary activities. Number one is safeguarding workers' rights, such as the paid safe and sick leave, commuter benefits, freelancer protections, fair work week protections, as well as most recently delivery worker protections as well. We also enforce consumer protections and business compliance laws and regulations in New York City. We license more than 51,000 businesses. And lastly, we promote financial health in our city. And we do that through the Office of Financial Empowerment Center, which you will learn more about it. But our main goal is really to educate consumers and businesses through built-in strategic and partnerships, community presentations, as well as these kind of webinars with you guys to teach you on how we could assist and what we offer as an agency. As you all know, if you live in New York City or anywhere actually, we are all consumers. We are all people buying products, whether it's for us, for our loved ones, for our friends. For us in DCWP, we want to make sure when you purchase that product, that you are protected as a consumer. So the consumer protection law prohibits unfair practices when dealing in consumer goods or services, such as let's say false advertising, let's say phony sales, and special offers, right? So that might have hidden conditions. So when we hear of consumers that might be taken advantage of, we work with our city agency inspectors to check out the problem or the location. And one way to report that, you could report any consumer complaints or anything to 311, or go to our website, nyc.gov/DCWP, and you could submit or file a consumer complaint, and we'll get on that complaint. We'll do whatever it needs to be done to correct or make sure that the business is in compliance. So that's that. And for small businesses, DCWP help small businesses through licensing, through other means in the agency as well. Please check out our website. We have many different information on workplace rights, like I mentioned earlier. There's many different laws that we enforce in New York City. So please, check them out at nyc.gov/DCWP. But most importantly, as today's topic, right? Financial literacy, and making sure that you know what's there for you. If you're a student, if you're a recent graduate with student loans, personally, I went to college, I took out a few, student loans, and, with this program, they helped, they help New Yorkers direct them to the right resources and how to really navigate that process, right? So in addition to these programs that the department offers, New Yorkers, the department or the Office of Financial Empowerment, was established to really connect New Yorkers to financial literacy, and it's the first local government initiative of its kind. It focuses on initiatives that support New Yorkers and communities with low incomes in building assets and improving their financial health. We have different, financial empowerment centers. Shaya is one of our centers located in Queens, but we also have over 10 centers in the Bronx dedicated for Bronx folks as well. The reason I say Bronx, may be biased, but that's where I live. That's my borough, so I gotta show love. But I'll, pass it on to my colleague Tristan, and he will go over, what the OFE, what they do, and how they could help you if you are a consumer, if you are a resident in New York City, and how to make an appointment and how to, go through that whole process and what you expect when you go to one of these centers. So thank you, Janelle. Thank you for having us. I'm excited about this workshop, and pass it on to my colleague, Tristan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you, Ayad, for the introduction, and also Janelle for having us in the first place. It's definitely an honor to speak with you guys here today. But yeah, as Ayad said, I do want to go through what we do here, who can work with us, who the service is available for, and making sure you guys understand the resources available to you. And that's going to be a quick introduction, and then we'll also jump into a Q&A with some questions that Janelle has, and hopefully that'll be helpful to you guys as well. Janelle, do you want to share the slides that I have? Perfect. Thank you so much, Janelle. All right. So as previously stated, my name is Tristan Romero. I'm a financial counselor at Chaya CDC, which is an organization located in Queens, New York. We have two locations, one in Jackson Heights and one in Richmond Hill. And yeah, we offer in-person services as well as virtual services. And yeah, we'd be more than happy to help you guys. And Janelle, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. Yeah, so first and foremost, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear that you are more than welcome and more than entitled to the service. So that's what I wanted to cover first, who was basically eligible for the service. It's basically free, professional, confidential one-on-one counseling. I've spoken to many clients from all different parts of the city and different occupations, different immigration statuses, income statuses. All of that stuff doesn't matter. You just have to be a resident of New York or working in New York. So those two things are just, whoever's doing that is available for the service. And another important thing that I touched on as well was the immigration status. I know a lot of people could be nervous to kind of sign up for one of these programs or sign up for a session, depending on immigration status, but it's definitely not a factor here. And yeah, just wanted that to be clear. So pretty much anyone in New York, you guys are more than welcome to have the service available to you. Janelle, if you want to go to the next slide. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so these are just kind of the core things that we do here at the FEC, the Financial Empowerment Center, and at Chaya in terms of our counseling sessions. So it's not geared towards one specific demographic. It's kind of a wide range and umbrella of topics that we cover and people that we serve. So in terms of recent graduates or people who are going into college, anything, all of that is under our umbrella. We can talk about different things like establishing and building credit scores, which is something that's very common that you see there. Opening safe and affordable bank accounts. Those are another hot topic with a lot of the young folks that I talk to. And also creating budgets and understanding how your budgeting is going to work going into your next stage of your life, whether you're going into college and you're planning for a change in your expenses because of those things associated with college, or you're graduating from college, going into the real world, transitioning into the the workforce, things like that. Those are all things that we can help with. Also, when it comes to student debts, any debts in general, really, we're available to help with that, whether it be contacting creditors or just helping you understand the options available to you, and also understanding your responsibilities when it comes to student loans and loans in general and debts in general. Yeah, those are some of the things that we do there. Janelle, you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. And yeah, this is just another brief bullet point list of other things that we do, tax services, different things like that. And as I said, help negotiating, or not negotiating, navigating your household budgets and things like that. And then supporting you guys and understanding, helping you understand what you can do in terms of navigating your student loans as well is a big thing. And yeah, just wanted you guys to be clear on that. Janelle, you can go to the next slide as well. So this right here is my personal contact information. This is a direct work line to me, and also my work email that you guys can reach out to me at should you be interested in setting up a counseling session, a financial counseling session. We could talk about any of the topics that I just brought up, and also helping you understand your personal situation a little bit more hands-on, and a little more personal time for you to ask me some direct questions there. Janelle, you can go to the next slide as well. And yeah, just so we're clear, I'm, as Ayad said, one of many organizations that offer services such as this. And we're located across the 5 boroughs in the Bronx as well. So you guys will be right at home. If you want to do in-person services, there's also virtual services available right now. I know with the pandemic, there's not, there might be a hesitancy to go in person. So there's virtual services as well. And that's something that I personally offer as well. We can go to the next slide. Thank you, Janelle. Yeah, so this is basically a screenshot of how everything looks when it comes down to booking an appointment. That link right there, the nyc.gov/money talks, is where you can go and book an appointment that you can do in person. It'll allow you to choose from the different locations that we have available to you. And you can navigate it through online, or of course, if you just want to call 311 and say financial counseling, they can connect you to an organization that is close to you. And yeah, next slide. So yeah, these are some of the questions that Janelle had for me. I'll let her go and take over this portion of it. But yeah, I just wanted you guys to understand what was available to you, how you can access these resources, and also just let you guys know that you have my personal contact information as well if you want to talk to a familiar face. So Janelle, if you want to take over with the Q&A. Floor is yours.
So Tristan, thank you for that overview. And I hope that people will reach out to one of your financial empowerment centers and speak to a counselor like you, so that if they are having issues with student debt or any of the other issues that you mentioned this afternoon, that they can get some assistance. But today we're going to focus on student debt. And so our first question is, what is the student loan debt crisis?
Yeah, so thanks. That's a great question to know. So it's, as many of us know, it's definitely, as the name implies, a crisis. It's caused by basically the cost of tuition going up and it being more than the household income can handle, basically. And that's what's causing the spikes in student loans. Basically, excuse me, what happens is that after all the aid and all the household income is put together and seeing what they could do, it often doesn't cover the full cost of tuition sometimes. And that's when it goes into taking out different loans, whether they be federal, private, things like that. So as of right now, the crisis is up to 1.7 trillion in debt, and it's projected to go much further than that and projected to grow year by year. There's currently 43 million federal borrowers and around 3 million private borrowers. And of those amounts, 12.4% of them report delinquent, which is basically when they're missing payments. And that's something that I see a lot with a lot of my clients, is delinquent payments. And around 15% of all Americans who were part of the survey also reported that they have outstanding undergraduate loans, which means that it's a good percentage of people who are a part of the student debt crisis.
What are some of the ways that students can avoid accumulating debt prior to enrolling in school?
Yeah, so that's another great question that I tackle with some of my clients as well. It's a matter of honestly doing homework in terms of where you want to go, comparing your different options available to you in terms of financial aid packages that are provided to the different university provided from the different universities you're attending. What looks the best to you? What do you think that you want to manage the best? And also, it comes down to little things as well, studying the area, cost of living, the different cities that you're looking into, just understanding what you're getting yourself into so that you can better prepare in terms of avoiding accumulating so much debt. So it's a mix of doing homework and then also doing things like budgeting and making sure you're understanding that. And of course, that's another plug for the financial counseling centers that can definitely help you with that as well. So I definitely would recommend not only doing your own individual research, but also having someone else outside of you that you can talk to. That's always a great idea.
Yes, that's true. Having as much information as you can before you make your decision is very important.
Yeah.
And so our next question is, what tips do you have on how loan borrowers can handle debt?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so this applies to a lot of people. This is something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand because they haven't been told, right? There's different ways that you can manage your debt. A lot of people, and especially clients that I talk to, they just have this fear of their student debt and they wind up avoiding it because of that fear. So a big part of the financial literacy process that I go through with my client is understanding that's a bad thing to do. You shouldn't be avoiding it. You should be able to tackle and understand it. And that's why I say it's a great idea to have people to bounce ideas off of. When it comes to tips on how you can manage the debt that you're already in, there's a lot of things, right? So one is just staying up to date with your student debt and staying in contact with the provider of the loans, right? Not avoiding it. And then at that point, even if you feel you can't afford it or whatever your situation might be, there's different programs available through your loan providers and also through federal loans and even private loans as well, where there's things like, for example, income-driven repayment plans, which is essentially they take a look at your budget, they go through some documents with you, and they look at your expenses and they look at your income and they say, okay, this is the allotted amount that you're going to pay. Oftentimes, it's tailored specifically, so it can be as low as $0, and it still counts as a payment towards your student loans. So even if there's zero room in your budget, that's something that's accounted for, and there's a way to still make a payment even without making a payment. Even if your payment's $0, it still counts as a payment towards your student loans, and make sure that you're on time with it as well.
That's an important tip. I know that's something that a lot of people don't know when they are out of school or maybe haven't quite found a job that they are able to afford like their loan and debt, that they can ask for a zero payment and still have it count towards their debt. So that's actually a really good tip. So moving right along, and you brought some of that up in your conversation, a topic that is so hot right now, and that's been discussing in the federal government, and one of the promises that Biden gave to students and college students was about student loan forgiveness programs. And there have definitely been some recent expansion and changes in the law with some of the student loan forgiveness programs, but can you tell us what are loan forgiveness programs and how do they work?
Yeah, so there's definitely been a lot of talk in terms of what can happen, especially with President Biden coming into office and the promises he has made towards students. So there's definitely a lot of talks and hopefully some developments, more developments coming in the future. In terms of current student loan forgiveness programs, the most common and ones that you'll probably see in the future is public student loan forgiveness, which is essentially the criteria for that is you have to work for either a government agency or certain types of nonprofits, right? Your providers can also tell you if the employer that you're working for is qualified under the public student loan forgiveness programs. So when it comes to that, essentially there's certain paperwork and things you have to fill out as well. But also it's a big emphasis of that program is to make sure that you're making your payments on time. Even if you have a $0 payment, as I said before, it still counts as a payment. So basically, the way that program works is that as long as you're enrolled and as long as you're doing everything properly, you have to be making 120 on-time payments, which is essentially 10 years, right? So the 10 years of payments and the proper paperwork over that time period as well is what's going to be important towards getting you qualified for that forgiveness in the first place, right? But even then, that's not a foolproof program, right? It's not 100% acceptance rate. So it varies on who will be accepted and things like that. But even those program rates aren't extremely high. That's why it's definitely important for students to understand not only what they're getting themselves into, but also how to manage it and the resources available to them.
Great. And if you don't qualify for a loan forgiveness program, what other resources are available for students or people who need assistance with paying student loan debt?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So again, that's going to go into some of what I previously touched on in terms of the income-driven repayment plans. I feel like that's the most safe, reliable, and really effective way in terms of handling your student loans when you're not qualifying for, say, student loan forgiveness, right? So which will be a lot of people. So when it comes to that, the idea is just making sure that you're up to date with your documents, making sure you understand the income driven repayment plans and how you can get enrolled in them, and making sure you're taking advantage of that. Also, the different things that you can do is talking to someone else, like I said, a counselor that can help you manage it and help you plan your budget out so that even if you don't have a $0 payment, you can understand, okay, this is an area that I can fix my budget so that I can account for the student loans that I have to pay. And so I feel that I can't stress that enough, that counselors are definitely important in that factor as well. So definitely not only income-driven repayment plans, but also making sure you're talking to counselors and understanding the options available to you and helping you actually tweak your budget from a month-to-month basis if it turns out that you do have to wind up paying, and making sure that you're on a firm footing financially as well.
Thank you. So thank you so much for all these great tips and information. And our final question, is there anything else or any other tips that I didn't touch on that you would like to add to the conversation for anyone who's facing student loan debt at this time?
Yeah, of course, of course. Thanks for that, Janelle. Yeah, so the biggest thing that I can stress with most of my clients that I deal with student loans with, by the time they come to me, oftentimes it can be too late past the delinquency. There's things that you can do to prevent you from being delinquent, which is, as I said, don't run from the student loan problem, address it, get the information, making sure that you're on top of it and you understand what's going on, and you're talking to someone to take preventative measures so that you're not missing the payments and you understand the resources available to you. So that's the biggest tip that I could stress, is stay on top of it, guys. I know it's scary. I'm a student too. I graduated, have student loans, and it can be scary to address because, especially depending on the universities you go to, some of these numbers, when you're done with school, you look at it and you'll be overwhelmed. You'll see that number and you don't even want to address it. But you should definitely address it and stay on top of it. There's things like interest as well that add to the amount. So the more you delay it and more you put it off and don't address it, the worse the problem can get. So even if you're at a point where you've been delaying it for a few years, just stop it and take advantage of the resources available to you and address what you can address right now. And that's the biggest tip I feel like I could say.
So thank you again, Tristan from Chaya. Again, under one of the Office of Financial Empowerment, one of the counselors there, and to Ayad from the New York City Department of Consumer Worker and Protection for participating in our session today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to go back and look at the slides where Tristan provided his contact information. And we thank you for joining us today.